Well, as we grow up as young people, we're in this stage where we have to become leaders and we have to take over from the leaders who are there now and manage well still. So this is the objective, that we can learn from leaders on what we can do, how we can improve, and how we can structure ourselves to manage in a proper and very efficient way. Thank you for being here, Natasha. Um, so, do you mind sharing a little bit on who you are
Yeah,
and what you do in the United World College?
sure. Yeah, so my name is Natasha Lambert, and I'm the rector at UWC Red Cross Nordic. And I've had this job since June last year, so it's quite recent. Before that, I was the deputy head here, and before that, I was the academic director, and before that, I was a house parent. And through all of this, I've also been a teacher of Spanish and of philosophy. So I've been at this school now 7.5 years, so quite a long time. Um, Before that, I also worked at Pearson College quite a few years ago, also as a teacher. So I've seen different schools in the movement, and I've had lots of different jobs in general, I think, across the aspects of education at UWCs.
So these are completely different countries.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They are. Although the funny thing is, when I remember coming here for my interview and feeling like, of course, the context is very different, but there is just something very familiar about being at UWC in the way that the students are with each other and with me when I visited. So when I went to the cantina with my lunch, I could sit down with anyone, and that isn't so normal in a school. A lot of schools, it would be quite hard to know who to sit with, and it's just so nice here that you can sit with anyone, and they'll wonder why you're here and they'll talk to you. And that was also true at Pearson. It's very special at UWCs.
That's a very interesting thing for you to say. And as a leader, how do you close that gap between you and the staff and the students? I mean, how do you do that?
I think it's been an interesting transition for me now in this job, because so much of my job before was with being with the education staff in particular and with the students all the time. So I felt like it was not ever a question. I'm just with people, so then they know me and I know them. And then now my job kind of pulls me away sometimes from those things. And so it's easy for weeks to go by, and I think actually outside of my activities, I haven't had casual interactions with students, or I haven't been able to go to staff meetings. I think the most important thing of all is to just remember to be present and be with people. And I think when people see how you are, then they understand that the power difference, that I don't want there to be a power difference between me and the others, in the sense that I want people to feel they can have the kind of psychological safety to say what they think. I think a really good example of that is Friluftsvecka on the ski week. I think when I go and I fall down the hill or help someone up or all those sorts of things, it's a natural leveler. And I think you can indicate through that being in those places and spaces that your ambition is that people talk to you freely. So that's the hope.
Nice. Do you want to give a little bit of context about what Friluftsvecka
Yeah,
is?
of course. Yeah, it's RCN language. Friluftsvecka is a week in the outdoors that we have in the first years. And often, to avoid using this word that maybe isn't so familiar, we say ski week, but there's not always snow. Every year I've been, there's been snow. So I've been lucky, but it's essentially a week where we take the first years and we all spend 5 nights skiing and being outside, and we sleep one night outside, and yeah, we spend some time together doing these things.
It sounds to me that you have such a big, immense connection with the students here and the staff. But then there's also the leadership side of it where you have to make decisions.
Yeah.
Has there been a decision that you made as a leader that you felt like this might not have been the right decision? And how did you react to that?
I think sometimes there are things that we try and they don't succeed. And then in some ways you think, okay, that was the wrong choice. Like you try something new, you try and do something a different way. So I think examples of that might be when what do we do after the second years leave for graduation and the first years are alone and sad, and we've tried different things, different models. And sometimes afterwards I've thought, okay, actually this was the wrong thing. Like an all-day workshop for students who are tired and sad was not the right choice. But I think it's also really important that we have the kind of place where you try and innovate, and then you accept that innovation means you might succeed or you might not succeed. But those decisions are probably not so hard because the stakes are low. I think when stakes are high, like anything to do with someone's well-being or their health, these can be really big decisions, and they're hard. They're very hard. But what's important is to get the advice of the people around you, and then to feel that you understand why you're making the decision that you're making at the time, and you can explain it. Yeah, sometimes you have to think forgiving of yourself as a person, that you will do the best that you can. But being the head of the school doesn't mean that I have access to superior knowledge or power. It means that I'm a human who has to make the choice with the information that I have.
Mm. You know, the way you're expressing yourself as a human, I mean, I feel like you're detaching from this just leadership position and you're showing that you're a human being as well. Then there must be something that you're doing every day that people don't know. I mean, what is one thing that you think you do every day that shapes you as a leader?
That's a good question. I mean, I think that one thing that I think is really important is these kind of casual interactions. So trying to find times, I hear someone's voice in the corridor I've not seen for a while, and to pop out and talk to someone, that just to reconnect and try and stay connected with people, because we're quite a small community. I think that's really important. But I think probably also one of the main things is to make time to do things that are just different from work. And I think probably that's one of the most important things I think about leadership in general, is that you have a lot to think about. You carry a burden of decision making, but you also have to make room for all the other things that are an important part of life. So making time to be home with my family, or go outside, or do sports, or the things that I know replenish my energy, that I think is really important. And that's also kind of consistent with the advice I've always given to students when they come and talk about their academic work or their challenges, is that every day has to include the kind of things that fill up your battery of energy, as well as the stuff that depletes it. So making time for that is actually about valuing yourself as a person, as well as a person who is trying to achieve something in the world.
Achieving something in the world.
Yeah.
How, as a leader of this school, United World College, one of them, would you say that the school positions the young people to actually make a change in the world? And how do they do that?
So one of the things that I like most about working here, I think is the most special, is that I think a lot of schools talk about the things that their students will do in the future, but I hope and I believe that this is a place where from the very beginning you can do things and have an impact. And so you're not a 16, 17, 18-year-old being prepared for 15 years in the future, but actually the message is right now you can start to have an impact. So I think that is really, really important. And I think one way of doing that, we've been working on that, is to bring forward and to make more important the sense of projects, the personal projects that are mission aligned, that students take on when they're here. Because here is a great place to try things. Like I said earlier, you try something and you know it might fail. But failing here with supportive people around you to debrief actually prepares you to try it again and to succeed the next time. And that's really important. So I think of RCN as a place, it's not so much for the leaders of tomorrow, it's for the young leaders of right now, who will go on to do great things, but are already making an impact in the world and in their communities.
Wow, that is truly phenomenal. And to look at the model framework of the United World College, especially this one, you have a lot of scholarships going to young people who are very unfortunate from different backgrounds, and you support them as if, they're equal when they come here. I mean, as a leader from the leadership position, especially on management, is there a way that you can break that down into the personal level of what you can do for personal management, even for that young person who doesn't have resources, but to continue making this impact one way or another?
Yeah. And of course, diversity means that we have got big diversity in terms of the income of the students. And to some extent, these are just the facts that also exist in the world. Some people can afford things other people can't. I think what's very important in how we organize the school is that opportunities here are irrespective of ability to pay. So you can't buy an RCN experience. You can be selected by chance for something here, like maybe we're doing a random allocation. You can be selected on merit, but there's never a time at RCN where the college has a program that's only if you can afford it. And that's really important for us as a UWC and also as a Nordic college. Education is here. Once you're here, it's for everyone that's here at the school. I think that it requires also that we can be quite thoughtful. We need to be thoughtful and intentional about the choices that we make, and remember that as leaders of the school, our job is also to observe and dismantle the barriers to participation at different levels that the students might feel. So I think a small example from before I was here, that's always been the way it is that when a student is on pocket money support from the school, it includes enough money to be able to have a hoodie, one of the student hoodies every year. And that's just an important part of belonging, that we want the students to belong, and this is part of belonging. So this feels quite small, and in a way I think you can see it as trivial. it's a hoodie, but it's symbolic of an inclusive community that crosses all sorts of different forms of inclusion.
Oh, thank you so much. That's really good. Before I end this interview, I just want to ask you, there's that young person right now, wherever they're from in the world, what's the one thing that you tell them right now that they should do and continue doing consistently as they grow to become leaders of tomorrow?
So I think the most important thing of all is spend the time on exploring who you are and who you want to be, and then putting your energy into that thing. I don't think there's only one way to be a leader. Like, I'm a person with a quiet voice, but I grew up seeing that leaders are they're often men, and they're always loud and super confident on the stage. And I think I've learned that you can acquire some of those qualities, but there's lots of ways to be a leader. And I think for young people now, I don't think we want a cookie cutter model of leadership. I think the best thing of all is to think, this is who I am, this is what matters to me, and my life and my choices will be consistent with that. So in the end, the kind of leader that I might end up being will be someone I can be proud of. And that for me is the most important thing of all.
Wow. So I'm very glad that I can close this interview knowing that, according to Natasha, and one of the wisdom that we've just received is that you are an individual person and you are different. There's no blueprint. Just be you and find out who you are even more, and find out how you can contribute to society. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.